Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining into to another live session with us at Dream Data. Good morning if you're in the US, and good afternoon if you're in Europe, like me. So today is it's a bit of a selfish episode, you can say. We're going to talk about communities and how to drive growth with them, and it's yeah, as I said, a bit selfish because I'm part of, I don't know, 10, 15 Slack communities. Some are active and some seem like a success, and others are very boring, and like they some got in a lot of users, but then it kind of dies out. I'm sure, and even yeah, at Dream Data we do have a community with just around 1,000 people in it, but it's not like, we need to figure out how to really make it an asset for us. And somebody who knows at least something, have something about it, have tried it out, is you, Colin. Which is, I think it's, you're one of the few that actually have like 5 years of experience running communities. But before I say anything more, maybe you can just do for those of you who haven't met you, Colin, like what is the kind of 2-3 minute intro to your professional career?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me, by the way, Stefan. It's good to be here. And hi, Jeremy and Patricia. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm not. Feel free to drop questions for me. I'm Colin. I started my career as a marketer. I worked for my parents first a little bit, and then I worked at a content marketing agency doing strategy and account management for companies like large B2C companies, small B2B, large B2B, every industry you can imagine, from manufacturing to SaaS to services, durable goods, everything. And then I went to run content and growth at a little community called Sales Hacker. In the process of interviewing for Sales Hacker was acquired by Outreach, which is a sales SaaS company some of you may know. And so my role transformed from content and growth into GM. I was running Sales Hacker as head of community at Outreach. And I did that for about 5 years. And now I'm running community at Pavilion, which if you don't know, you should check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a community for go-to-market professionals who it offers everything: professional growth, networking, skill development, courses, training, events, local, virtual events, everything. It's pretty cool.
I'm a member, and yeah, it's definitely, I can testify that it's high quality people in there, and there's like true engagement as well going on there, as opposed to to some other communities that dies a slow death. And I think you're probably being a bit humble about the Sales Hacker one. Wasn't it like 100,000 people
That's my
around?
hallmark.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's harder on me than me. When I took it over, it was actually more of, I think, a media company. There was a lot of one-to-many activities, a big publishing arm. We did put on a lot of events, but it was mostly known for the blog, which attracted like 3 million visitors a year, and our podcast.
Well,
And I evolved it from just that into also a community. So we launched a forum and like a true membership at Sales Hacker, and grew it from 0 to 70,000 engaged members in about 2.5 years. So it was a wild ride, and also doing it as part of Outreach, which during the time I was there grew from 300 employees at 30 million ARR to 1,100 employees at 300 million. It was fun. There was a
great.
lot of change, a lot of moving fast and breaking things. Yeah.
Where did all those members come from? Just out of curiosity.
So our growth loop was largely driven by organic content marketing and organic traffic.
Yeah.
So the way that we actually kind of had a double growth loop. So part of the growth loop, and by the way, folks, I like to think in loops. I'm going to nerd out on this for a minute. If it gets boring, interrupt me.
Feel free.
So Sales Hacker started as an events company. And the cool thing about events is that it's really good at forging relationships and partnerships, so you can get really close with some people. But once the event is over, those relationships occur in a vacuum, or like, in between two individuals, and the content from the event is lost unless you do something with it. And so the founder, Max Altschuler, very wisely decided to start documenting the content from these events and publishing it online. And then he worked with a guy named Gaetano Donardi, who is a whiz, absolute expert at SEO and content marketing, and was able to optimize that content. So when I took over, we had the beginnings of a growth loop where great content contributed by actual sales experts who had like real authority. Optimized for search, attracts search traffic. Some of that search traffic converts to get the newsletter, so they're up to date on all the new content. And every now and then, one of our new subscribers says, hey, I would like to also publish content. So then you're back to the beginning of the growth loop. And then as that email list was growing, we were able to attract sponsors. Sponsors created webinars with us. We did 2 webinars a week for 4 years.
2 webinars a week for 4 years.
Yeah, it was a lot. And you know, each of those webinars had a chance to convert new subscribers as well, which then, you know, fed back into our ability to attract sponsors. So the way we got to members was like, we weren't starting from zero really at members. We had this big email list. We had the one-to-many media company motion going, publishing a lot and attracting visitors and subscribers and sponsors. So for us, it was more like adding a new feature, more like saying, hey, you're used to reading things from Sales Hacker. How would you like to talk to other people who also enjoy, you know, geeking out on sales?
Yeah.
So that's I think why we were able to grow to 70,000 members so quickly.
That's crazy impressive.
It sounds it, but you know, when you're in it every day for 5 years, the progress is actually pretty slow. It's just persistence, you know.
Yeah. A lot of persistence. And so that was kind of did you always dream about getting into the community led growth role, or how did that kind of coincidentally land on your desk?
So no, I do think it's fascinating and interesting, and I've always been upset. I still consider myself a marketer.
Yeah.
And what fascinated me and the reason I got into content marketing is the idea that it's non-interruptive. This is back in like 2011 when HubSpot was starting to take off. The idea of inbound marketing was taking off. I loved the idea that there could be marketing done that wasn't just ads and discounts, that there was like a marketing that could almost be thought of as a product that the company produces that provides initial value and enough initial value that the users or the audience for that content, that product, want to like get the next level of product, which might be software or services. I loved that idea. And I think community is just like the next natural evolution of that. The content space is saturated. As we all know, robots can create pretty good content now, but they can't yet replace human connection and networking and relationships. And so I think community is like the way I think about community is really that it's a freemium product that any company can offer as part of a go-to-market motion, where you just focus on building something that your target audience wants, that delivers them value, and that includes the right triggers and calls to action to get them to, you know, start to fork over cash for the real value you offer.
I think we all of us know this annoying feeling of being sold to, and it's not what we want. We want to at least pretend to be making rational choices here and there.
Yeah,
and I think then the community component also allows you to do a softer conversion rather than book a demo call with us now or buy our product.
Yeah, it ties in really well with like the other key terms floating around out there: partner-led growth, product-led growth. It leads to a lot of organic growth that you don't have to, you know, pour money into in a linear fashion. You don't have to get one new rep to get 20 new deals every month. You can build a community that gets you more deals every single month, as long as you operate it well.
Yeah. Cool. So there's something going on. We're live on YouTube and Twitter, but LinkedIn seems to be buggy right now. So maybe there's a few people being stuck there, but we do have a good audience on the other other platforms. So why did the Pavilion decide to kind of hire you? And what was kind of did they have a job post, or did they just say, Colin, turn on the fire here in this
Yeah,
community?
it's funny. They just reached out, so I'm fortunate that I happen to know Sam Jacobs, who's the CEO and founder, and a couple other members of the team. But I think the reason for the role is this actually is the first time that a head of community role has existed at Pavilion. Strangely, it is a community.
Yeah,
Um,
that actually surprises me to hear
yeah,
because it has been going on for a while.
yeah. I think it's one of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Pavilion has been growing and thriving with an engaged membership for a long time. Um, and there's excellent teams delivering really great learning content through Pavilion University.
Mm.
The in-person events run incredibly well. We have really great relationships with our chapter heads in all the cities all over the world. So I think it was just this idea that because it's growing and because there's more chapters in more cities and we're offering more and more different things, there's research that we do as well, that Pavilion is growing in many different directions. And as it spreads, the connective tissue between all of our offerings has
Mm.
weakened because there's nobody responsible for it.
Yeah.
So the way I see my role is to, I'll just give some examples. We run some really great research benchmarking executive compensation,
Yeah, it's super
and
nice.
also like pulse reports on how well the market is performing at different stages of the funnel in different industries
Yeah.
every quarter. That content doesn't always make it into the course material for Pavilion University. And Pavilion University course material, which is taught by amazing instructors that we recruit, doesn't always make it into events and like discussions that happen in our Slack channel. So all of these things are doing well individually, but because they're doing well and growing in different directions,
Yeah.
the feeling of a shared experience, I think, has become harder to maintain. And
Mm.
so that's the way I view my role, is to try to make Pavilion feel like one experience with a lot of different moments that can stand out but are connected to one another.
Is it centered around the Slack community, or do you also consider physical activity as part of it, or like the emails that go out, or kind of like what are the like tangible
Yeah,
medias or like rooms that you focus on?
sure. Um, it depends who you ask. So we've identified 4 different behavioral profiles of people who join Pavilion. Um, some are job seekers, and so
Yeah.
like they come to join Pavilion to specifically work on their resume, network, and maybe pick up a few more skills that make them more marketable, either for a promotion or just a job. Some people just like being connected and part of the zeitgeist of go-to-market leadership and skill development. So there's like the networker.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's a learner and they very much like the tangible benefits they get from going to Pavilion University, getting certifications. They can refer back to the course material and have frameworks to pull from. Who haven't I listed?
So it's a
Job
job
seekers,
seekers, learners.
learners, networkers. Oh,
Yeah.
and then some people are like building, like they are building a go-to-market motion or building a business. There's some founders, and they really just need like, what do I got to know so I can apply it today in my job?
Yeah.
So there's 4 different like behavioral profiles, and so it depends who you ask, like what Pavilion is centered around. But the things that we offer are Slack, with tons of channels. They're all pretty alive and thriving.
Yeah, that's my. I'm probably the one that consumes. I'm a
What's your favorite?
consumer in the Slack channels.
Yeah. Yeah, I mostly read them too. I don't contribute much, to be
Yeah,
honest. I just like picking up what other people are putting down. We also have a knowledge base that a lot of people go to. It's mostly templates, frameworks, models for things like job descriptions, organizational charts, comp plans, go-to-market strategy frameworks, board decks, things like that. There are local chapters in, I think now more than 50 cities, maybe more, across the world. So there's like a local community component where you can build relationships with folks. A lot of people network into new jobs or recruit for their teams that way.
yeah,
There's Pavilion University, I've mentioned a few times. What am I missing? Oh, we have a jobs board. And then we have a couple other like smaller community programs that are relatively new.
yeah.
Like you can sign up to be matched with another member who has similar interests to you. And
Mm,
schedule something on your calendar and you can just chat. Or you can even find, we have a vetted mentor directory. So if you're
yeah,
looking for a specific kind of mentor, you can get in there and search and find a mentor. So there's like all kinds of different ways. And the idea is that, we don't prescribe a member journey, but we make it easier for those 4 behavioral types to find the journey that they need,
yeah,
which are all different.
yeah. An inherent challenge probably also is the fact that you guys also it's pretty much like almost like a global community by now. So there's some time zone challenges sometimes, I could imagine.
Yeah, there are. Um, it's actually, yeah, it's tough. And there are actually some technology things like Slack is huge in North America,
Yeah,
but it shows in the data that our members in Europe and APAC and Africa and South America don't, like, they're on WhatsApp instead.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that hasn't been, like, we're not managing that well yet, I would say. We have some opportunity to improve those experiences for how we help members connect in those other parts of the world.
yeah. It makes a lot
Um,
of sense.
yeah,
And then do one big world congress at some point.
that would be so fun.
And
Yeah, we
expensive,
got,
but fun.
will you help me pitch that to Sam? I think he'd like
Yeah.
that idea. Maybe we could, like, I think Dubai would be a cool place to do it. It's pretty central to everybody. We could all fly in,
Yeah.
beautiful Burj.
Let's do it during winter time when it's dark and gray here in
Yeah,
Denmark.
oh, for sure.
Do you have any metrics that you have to report on back to your managers at Pavilion?
Hmm. Yeah, so because Pavilion is a community, my metrics here are very much like product metrics.
Yeah.
Adoption, time to value, engagement, both like depth of engagement, how much people use each feature, but
Yeah.
also how many features each member uses, so breadth of engagement,
Yeah.
frequency of usage, but then of course, like the lagging metric is retention. We also look at NPS, although to be totally honest, we more look at like, did they reply to the NPS survey than the
Mm.
actual score itself. We found the score is not predictive of retention, but replying to an NPS survey, even if you give us a bad rating, is
Yeah.
very predictive of
Yeah.
retention. So that's
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. What
But
about?
I will add, like, when I was running Sales Hacker, it was considered part of the go-to-market motion for outreach. So obviously, Sales Hacker, community was the product, and we had some product metrics we looked at. But for outreach, I was reporting like go-to-market metrics, like brand awareness, brand perception, community source pipeline. We were also held to, like, we paid for ourselves.
Mm.
Sales Hacker did not have a community budget. We were running it as like a cash flow business. So all of my sponsorship dollars was my salary, the rest of my headcount, our tech stack, and everything.
That's super cool.
So revenue obviously was important for us. What else did we look at? We also looked at, I mean, the weird thing about being at Outreach is like we were trying to define a new category, and that category actually changed once or twice during my tenure there. So a lot of our work was, for lack of a better word, like market indoctrination, like have people heard of the category? Are they even aware of the problem that Outreach is
Mhm.
available to solve?
That's interesting.
So we looked for things like monthly search traffic for sales execution. If that's going up, we assume that Sales Hacker has some part to play in that because we've been yapping about sales execution to our members for the last 6 months.
That is interesting that you can kind of, and when you have a big community as Sales Hacker, you can actually influence the words that get used in the wider sales community as well.
It was cool. I felt like I had like the Thanos gauntlet, like maybe a little too much power. Like my hand on the scales of the zeitgeist. I had a friend though who was running a go-to-market community, a similar space, and her name is Katie Ray. she's awesome. Check her out if you need help with community. She's available for consulting now.
Yeah. She was at, was it Metadata?
Yeah, Metadata. Yeah. There, she was able to work out a way to basically prove that community membership led to higher average contract value at initial signing and like a 30 or 40% shorter sales cycle. And that was a simple, like, is this a checkbox in Salesforce? Is this person a member of the community? Check. And when that box was checked, the deals were bigger and faster, which was kind of cool.
It makes sense for me because, like, if you have, it's been lack of better words, been drinking of the Kool-Aid, then you also have a bigger affinity for the brand and you probably understand the problem deeper. So you're willing to pay more to make this happen.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is though, like as soon as cash is short, a CEO would look at that and think, are we just spending money on this community to try to convince people who are already going to buy anyway?
Yeah.
And like that is the fundamental crux that's the biggest challenge every community professional has to face is longevity and like sustainability and defensibility of the model. Because in good times it always looks good, and in bad times it's really easy to say the community looks bad.
Yeah. But it is like there is some zero CAC to it once it's built. Like hitting that extra ad channel costs you nothing once it's up and running.
Yeah.
As opposed to kind of how else do I notify 5,000 people or however many you have in your community?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's easy to take it for granted. And what I try to just remind CEOs or CROs who are trying to decide whether to invest is like, think about the value of your logo.
Yeah.
Or like the work you've done to try to define or be a main player in your category. You're very willing to spend $40,000 on an engagement with Forrester. Is the ROI from that really that clear? No.
Yeah.
And it's same deal with community. I mean, it's market moving, and actually you can get to clarity on ROI, but like you just have to prioritize the operations and the BI teams. Point them towards the challenge of getting clear ROI.
Yeah. So now if we look outside those two very like community out of the box places where you've been a Sales Hacker and Pavilion, is this an opportunity for all companies you would think, or is it are there certain types of companies that lends itself better to establishing a community around them?
That's a really good question. There are two main factors that come to mind that I would think I think I would ask CEOs and founders and leadership teams to think about. And one is, so I've read a bunch of business books. I don't like many of them. The one that I find myself recommending again and again is Good to Great. Have you read that one?
No.
It's good. And then at the end it gets great. He's got this principle. I actually don't even know if he came up with it. It's by Jim Collins, called the hedgehog concept.
Yeah.
And the idea there is like a hedgehog is kind of a helpless little animal. No claws, no teeth, small. All it can really do is curl up in a ball and has spikes. So it does one thing, but it does that one thing really, really, really well. And that's all it needs to do. And so like the question is creating a community aligned with what your business's core genuine identity is? If you're the type of business, and it does kind of come down to the personalities of the leadership team, are the leadership team already kind of encouraging the business to grow in ways that feel connective, relationship oriented, and
Yeah.
like is community kind of already in the fabric or the DNA of the company?
Yeah. Do you like transparency? Do you like
Yeah.
answering
Yeah.
customers in public and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have that, then that's fine. You've got other strengths. Just focus on those. Community can be a shiny object too. And so that's one thing. The other thing is like, do you offer a service or product where it would benefit your customers to be able to talk to other customers?
Mm.
Usually the answer is yes. The cases where the answer is not yes is like highly sensitive data products, or like, legal services and things like that.
Yeah.
But even in those cases, let's say that your customer is a healthcare provider.
Yeah.
And your product has to do with their patients' data. They can't get together and talk about their patients' data. But what you can do is build a community that helps healthcare providers understand the data landscape with the goal of helping them future-proof their careers. So like your healthcare providers, you could just say, hey, like, I know that we don't offer a product that specifically helps you build your career. We're not offering career services for doctors. But we found that when we get together once a month and have a discussion about like financial planning and hiring or managing a small private practice, that our members benefit. Like you can find ways to kind of make an excuse for it. I think you just don't want to reach that far. So anyway, that's long-winded. The two factors to look at are like, is it in the DNA of the company and the leadership team? And would your customers benefit from connecting with each other more?
Yeah. I think that's really good advice. And you also need to be able to look beyond just the transactional thing of they need to buy your product right now. And you need to understand like who are these people, what are their interests, and though we're not selling right now, they have a lot of things in common that they're looking for answers and inspiration to.
Yeah, I used to think that community could help make a company more customer centric.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I think it could make it more customer centric. I don't think that building a community at a company that is not customer centric will transform that company. I don't think it works. You kind of have to already have that in the DNA of the company.
Yeah. Interesting. And maybe a little bit sad, but interesting for sure.
It is. It's a little sad, but like it's not a forever problem. I think if leadership decides it's a priority and focuses on driving cultural change, then that's where it really comes from.
What do you think it will like? Why is the timing kind of these years and not like the last 10 or 20 years? Like, why is this community-led approach to building your to driving your growth? Why do you think the timing is now?
Yeah, I think there's 4 factors.
Oh wow,
First,
you've thought about these things.
I think about this day and night.
Okay, yeah.
So the first factor is we're coming off the back of a very bullish SaaS funding environment.
Yeah.
Where VCs wanted to hear founders talk about total market domination. And when you have a very long-term trajectory of success like that, when your time horizon to success is long, it makes more sense to invest in community as a go-to-market tool and a category creation tool.
Yeah.
Because it is hard to show short-term ROI on community. So like that financial and like just business valuation and growth environment helped fuel some companies to get the lead on developing communities. And then we went into the pandemic.
Yeah.
And all of the, so this is the second factor, all of the field marketing budgets are now useless
Yeah.
because you can't get people together at an
True.
event. So where do those go? Virtual events. People start paying people like community managers to host Slack groups and Discords and things. So that's the second factor. The third factor is what I mentioned earlier, that like it's community is a close relative of content marketing, in that it is like a value forward path to marketing that's non-interruptive and value additive, but content is pretty saturated. And so like companies are thinking, how can I be non-interruptive and fuel organic growth? And like community is the thing. And then the fourth, I really think is, and again, this was fueled by the pandemic, but people are lonely.
Yeah.
And office work, even before the pandemic, was becoming less common. So people are working remotely, and like it's just something that people want more. People are, craving connection.
I think that one of the things you said is also like the relationship to content, and I think the difference with content nowadays is that is just with AI, generative AI, etc. This will just explode now, and most things that you will be consuming in terms of content will be generated by some kind of computer. Whereas, like the true interaction in a community between 2, 3, 4 people that comes up with the answer on time, not generated by an AI, that is a truly unique experience that they won't find anywhere else, because it's real people that are interacting with each other. Whether they're smarter or not than the AI, I can't guarantee, but at least it's real people.
We're always going to be social. We're animals.
Yeah.
You can't forget, we don't crave the right answer. We crave at our core connection and a sense of belonging and fulfillment and meaning, and like those things, not yet can those come from an AI.
I think that if we just drill deeper in there, what are the do's and don't of making people feel this way then? Or what have you done in the past to kind of, where have you gone wrong and where have you done it right sometimes?
Yeah. I'll start with a do, just because it's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
So here's a framework for building community, and I stole it from improv. It's yes and. When you're doing improv, if you give me a piece of information like, hey, Colin, welcome to the carnival, I say, oh yeah, this carnival's great, and look at those clowns. I can't believe they're fighting. So yes, and I added some information.
Yeah.
When you're building community, that's kind of the way it works. You can go about your normal business operations and playbooks and motions, but as you do them, think, and how do I use this one thing to help build community? So like, I'm putting together a demo video. And how can I make it community? I can involve a customer, or I can involve 2 customers. And as I'm doing that, I introduce them to one another. And if they like one another, they can, connect in our Slack group or elsewhere. So you just do that. If you build that into your motion all the way through, and like that becomes standard practice. And that's the most sustainable way to build community. And then it doesn't even really feel like you're making an investment in community. It's just kind of, this is how we do things here.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest do. Another do is, or maybe don't, never ever build community and then launch it. Like you're not building for people, you're building with them. And if you're not building with them, it's not a community. So there's something called a commitment curve. And it comes from, I think, change management and HR. But David Spinks, who founded CMX, which is now part of Bevy, David Spinks created the community commitment curve, which is kind of like the path of an engaged community member from the day they sign up to like when they're very engaged, they're helping lead user groups and organizing local meetups and things like that. To build the path to high commitment, you start from the high point. So you find the people who are already engaged, kind of already being very vocal or helping other users, or writing a blog about your software or your service,
Yeah.
or just talking to your customer success team the most, and you try to reverse engineer their path and help them continue on their path while pulling others in their wake.
Yeah.
And so involve them. Say, hey, customer, I'd like to build a community that makes your time even more valuable as a customer.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm thinking, which seems most reasonable or most exciting to you. And would you be interested in playing a role in this? And what?
Yeah.
So it has to be organic and conversational. And
I think there's normally whenever we do anything at Dream Data, I try to think about, have we done it well enough? Have we? Is it interesting enough? Is it personalized enough? And maybe the next question to add to that is kind of, is it community enough? Or was there an obvious opportunity here that we should have asked somebody to join, or co-create something with, let's say we're doing a how-to guide about something. Let's not just write it ourselves, but is there anybody in the community that we can bring into it? Or these LinkedIn Lives, we don't do it with a lot of customers, but it's quite obvious that we could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I would have so much fun talking about this with one of your customers.
Yeah.
Here's another don't. Oh no, did I just lose it? I think I lost it. It'll come back.
Yeah, it's meanwhile, while you think, do you have any? So, one of the things with a community, with Slack, is kind of, that is just a personal question I have as well. When you use Slack as the center of your community, there are some commands in there. I think it's channel here. How often do you allow yourself to disturb and ping everybody, and how often do you just post without pinging everybody?
Yeah.
Because
It's a hard question.
A month back or so, one person complained that, hey, you're using the ad channel too much, and we do it once every second week or third week or something like that. And some people from my team got really we shouldn't use it because this one guy is complaining.
You brought me right back to my don't. So I'll get there in a second. The way that I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but here's how I think about the at channel and at here commands. Is the way that my bank sends me notifications. I cannot opt out from them telling me that they've updated their privacy policy. They're it's a fundamental part of the way I choose to be a customer of the bank. And they're required by law to tell me. But even if they weren't required, I would be pretty pissed if they started using my financial information in a way that I didn't want them to. So it should be that level of important to your members that you use hey, everybody listen. This is a fundamental change to the way that you're a member. And think about it it's a big tier 1 level new feature or program for the community. We've instituted term limits for chapter heads, for instance. By the way, if you're a Pavilion person watching, we're not doing that. Just throwing out an example. So that's how I think about it. And like I said, you brought me back to my don't. When you have a thriving community, the voice of the customer gets really loud and extremely granular. And so do not confuse random customer feedback via the community with a good voice of the customer program. Exactly what you said happened is you're going to have one complainer and you're going to turn the whole ship. And then 2 months later, someone's going to be like, I missed that announcement. How come you guys never use the channel announcement thing? That's the only way I know. So you can't let the tail wag the dog. And it's easy for that to happen when your community is thriving. It's a constant battle at Pavilion. Our members are awesome. And they give me all kinds of feedback. And I want to take it all, but I really have to be careful about acting on it. So I try to let it just digest for as long as I can before making decisions.
It's been yeah, that one we had a internal discussion about. And I somehow also see it a little bit as it is our community. So if we have agreed that this is a good piece of information, then it's okay that we do that. And then if you don't like it, you're welcome to step outside of this community.
Yeah, it is. It's their community too, but our is an important thing. So we have a saying at Pavilion. It's one of our core operating principles.
Yeah,
Members first.
yeah.
Always members first. It's not member first. So if
Good point. Yeah.
hate to tell you, Stefan, but if you have a challenge one day that's like you ask me for help and it's going to take half my day to solve it, and believe me, I would like to, but it's going to take me away from solving an equally important problem for the other 9,900 members,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to wait.
Yeah.
And I'll be very sad if that hurts your experience and makes you leave, but I have a priority. So it's all of our community, and it's like very much protecting it can turn into the tragedy of the commons
Mm.
pretty quickly. So you have to behave like a steward
Yeah.
for everybody. And sometimes that means sort of being a parent, like almost a parent role to the members
Yeah.
when they're not thinking of the good of the community, when they're just focused on themselves.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Okay, I'm really impressed by how specific you can get, Colin, when you're talking about these things.
I'd sleep and dream it. So
Yeah. So going from 0 to 1 with a community, and that's probably going to be some of the last things we'll do here. So, but like, how do you start a community? Like, if you don't have it and you want to get it up and running, what is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you need to start doing?
I think that the most common sense place to start a community is a customer advisory board. The way that most people approach a customer advisory board is for input on like product roadmap in at least in software.
Yeah.
And so some customers will view that as valuable to them. Like, ooh, thank you for inviting me to be on the cab because I value having input on your roadmap.
Mm.
But most of the time, companies feel like they're making an ask.
Mm.
And so they get very careful about how they implement customer advisory boards. They make them very formal, extremely limited in scope. We meet twice a year. And I'm never going to ask you to do anything outside of this because I already feel like I'm asking you to do so much.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong way to do it. That's, in my opinion, very bad because you're not just limiting yourself and getting value from it, you're limiting what you give your cab members.
Mm.
So the cab should feel like an offer and an opportunity. So if you feel like you're asking too much, it's because you haven't made it valuable enough.
Mm.
So your cab should include some very overt, very valuable gives. Like, I'm going to fly you all to Cancun every spring, and we're not going to talk about the product roadmap. We're going to bring in a meditation expert and a masseuse, and we have some great content from some cool speaker, and then we have a dinner. That's a community. Because they're getting value out of it. It's not an ask anymore. Those people are going to build relationships, and they're going to have ideas that you didn't even think to ask them for. Like, hey, what if can I actually bring my team? I'll foot the bill. Or what if we did it local and cheaper and invited 100 other customers? I'd really like to meet more customers than just so it starts small. And I think the cab is a really natural starting place because most companies are willing to invest in a cab.
That's
And
great advice.
it's hard to say, hey, we should start this other new thing that's on top of the cab.
Yeah. Great advice, Colin. We were actually discussing some kind of customer advisory board the other day, and I was thinking this kind of,
Nice.
is it asking too much? Will they just feel like it's spam? But if you think about balancing it out with them, meeting other like peers that are also equally smart, and then maybe having a good time with those people, then you're starting to approach the kind of equilibrium in some way.
Some of it is messaging too. And like, I think it's easy for the cab to look like an ask if you feel like it's an ask.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's an ask, customers will like roll their eyes and be like, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if you get excited about it and like, this is a really cool opportunity for you, then you'll either customers will just feel that way, or you'll more naturally attract the kind of customer who feels that way and should be part of the cab.
Yeah.
I learned that when I was working for my parents, to just bring this back to how I started my career, I sent out a mailer.
Yeah.
It's like a direct mailer in the mail to a specific neighborhood near Boston that's high income, because I was trying to sell renewable energy, which is more expensive than the dirty stuff.
Yeah.
At the time it was. And like, I guess my mailer was a little confusing because I kept getting people calling and asking the same question. And so I started apologizing. When people would call, I would say, yeah, I'm sorry, that mailer was confusing. And then they would get angrier. And then I didn't sign up any customers. And eventually I was like, you know what? This is not a confusing mailer. These people are not taking the time to read it. And I'm not mad at them for that, but I actually didn't mess up. And so I stopped apologizing and just explaining it. And I started signing up customers. And it's the same deal with like a lot of things companies do. They feel like they have to be in a transactional relationship with their customers. I'm going to ask you to do the cab, and try to convince you to do it. If you get out of the transactional mindset and more into like a let's walk down this path together mindset, it'll be good for both of us. Then it's you have a lot less defending to do, and people are just more excited to go with you.
Yeah. Interesting. And did your mom and dad increase the Christmas gift that year then?
No, I was making $25,000 a year. I didn't get vacation. I barely had weekends.
That's tough, man.
that's the nature of working in a small family business.
Yeah.
I had fun though. I learned a lot.
Is it still around?
No, they started getting offers to be acquired. And in that industry, they basically just buy your book of business and then fire everybody. So I left. And then my parents ended up not taking any offers, just shuttered it, cashed out. And they're both back to being, well, my dad's now retired. My mom's back to being an engineer.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Cool, Colin. What is the, if people want to speak with you or understand more about your work or Pavilion, what is kind of the best way for people to reach out to you?
Join Pavilion. I'm in Slack, or you can just hit me up on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/in/community-Campbell on LinkedIn.
Super nice, Colin. I really want to say thank you. Sorry about the hassle with LinkedIn switching on and off, but I had the small support thing going on here, and I'll get angry at them afterwards. But thank you so much, Colin. It was really a good inspiration for me for like figuring out what we can do more of at Dream Data. And hopefully we'll be able to set up that customer advisory board within this year then.
Yeah, if you want to talk about it, hit me up in Pavilion Slack. I'm down to jam on this stuff anytime.
Wonderful. Have a great day, Colin, and thanks for joining.